Hoops through life. Hoops through life.
Welcome to another episode of Hoops Through Life, a podcast where we discuss everything related to women's basketball player development, the collegiate recruiting process, and transition from high school to college. I'm your host, Elsbeth Bierman. Today, we are starting our skills series. Over the next few episodes, we are going to break down different basketball skills. We'll go into why they matter, how to assess them, the common basketball situations you'll see that skill, and how you can get better at that specific skill. Today's episode is all about ball handling. Whether you're running the offense, driving to the basket, creating a passing angle, or breaking pressure, ball handling is one of the foundational skills of your success on the court. I'm going to take you through what it means to be a strong ball handler, how to assess your own skills, and share some of my favorite ball handling activities that can help you take your game to the next level. By the end of this episode, you'll have a better understanding of the areas you need to work on and the tools to make that happen. So grab a notebook or just lock in and let's get started. Let's start with the why. Why is ball handling so important? And this might seem like common sense, or it might seem like, why are we even going over this? But there's often a significant disconnect between the purpose of ball handling and the way we have athletes practice it. So I'll give you my definition of an elite ball handler. And if you have any other thoughts or debate, feel free to email me. Always open to ideas. But on its most foundational level, an elite ball handler is someone who can efficiently get from point A to point B. So if we peel that back, great ball handling is about way more than flashy moves. It's about control, composure, and making smart decisions. Every possession starts with someone handling the ball. It doesn't matter if you see opportunities for yourself and your teammates. If you can't control the ball under pressure, or if you have a point guard who can never start the offense, it doesn't matter how good your shot is or how good your plays are. Ball handling ties it all together. A question I get a lot from parents and athletes who aspire to play in college is, what skills does my athlete need in order to play in college? And the way I interpret that question and what I feel they're really asking is, what do I need to be able to do as a ball handler, a shooter, defender, whatever skill they're talking about, in order to get recognized by college coaches and get on their list of athletes they want to recruit? So let's get into the assessment of ball handling. And here are some questions that I ask myself when I'm evaluating a player's ball handling abilities. So position. First and foremost, I ask, what position do they play? That answer will inform my expectations of how I need them to handle the ball. A point guard needs to be able to handle the ball very differently than a post player. How coordinated do they look? Are their movements smooth and fluid, or do they look stiff and robotic? Are their hands and feet working together, or does it look very disjointed? You want your movements to look smooth and fluid. When you are stiff and robotic, your movements are very predictable, which makes you really easy to guard. Number 3, can they move in all directions with ease? So forward, backwards, side to side, diagonally. You want to be comfortable in every plane of motion. Number 4, can they dribble effectively with both their right and their left hands? If you can't go both ways, you're limiting yourself and making yourself too easy to guard. And quite frankly, if you can't dribble with both hands, you are severely limiting your opportunities to play college basketball. And I might say that at any position. Number 5, can they change directions and get past a defender? This has everything to do with pace. So pace and coordination, the first or the second one that I mentioned, complement one another. Can you change your pace from different stances and locations? So stances meaning you're low or you're high. So high to low to high, one foot in front of the other. Your stance is wide, your stance is narrow. How explosive are they when they attack? This doesn't mean going 1,000,000 miles an hour. You don't even have to be the fastest person on your team. I mean, we've all played against that player who is so slow, but seemingly can always get to the rim. And I've even heard people say they move so slow you can't guard them. But in reality, what they're good at is going from slow to faster. Number 6, can they keep their dribble alive with contact? So this is, you're getting bumped. Maybe you're in the lane. Maybe you're just bringing the ball up the court. Maybe you just catch on the wing and you have a defender who, gets their arm into you. Number 7, can they handle pressure in both the full court and the half court? Whether it's breaking a press or navigating a trap, vision comes to play here too, but composure and vision under pressure is what will help you with this one. And the last one is, do I, as a coach or an observer, do I feel comfortable with the ball in their hands? This is everything that I just said as expressed in a gut feeling. And if you've said no to anything on that list, that's where you need to start. If you're a guard and your coach or teammates aren't comfortable with you handling the ball in key moments, that is definitely something that you should address. So take a moment and reflect on these questions. I would even just pause this episode and think, where are you strong on that list? Where are you strong and where do you need work? And then ask yourself why. So for example, I struggle with handling pressure during a full court press. Okay, now peel that back. Why is that? Because I pick up my dribble as soon as I see the trap coming. And that causes me to freak out, and then they're doubling me and I turn the ball over. All right, so knowing that, now it's time to work on keeping your dribble alive or keeping your head up so that you can see your teammates before you're stuck in the middle of that trap. When you figure out why you're struggling in certain areas, you can create that plan to get better. That's any skill, not just ball handling. I mean, self-awareness is the first step to improving your skills, any skill that you want. So yes, I would say pause this episode and I will repeat those questions real quick just as a refresher. So the first one, position, coordination, how coordinated do you look? Can you move in all directions? Dribble effectively with both your right and your left hands? Can you change directions and get past the defender? Keeping your dribble alive with contact? Handling pressure in the full and half court? And do your coaches feel comfortable with the ball in your hands? Let's talk about different situations where ball handling comes into play. So half court offense and creating passing angles. Can you keep your dribble alive while your team is setting up? Are you able to create space to pass or attack? You see your teammate in the corner. There's no way you can make the pass from where you are. Can you use your handle to get to a spot where you can make that pass? Driving in tight spaces. When you're driving to the basket, can you keep the ball low and tight to your body to avoid turnovers? Breaking a press. Can you handle pressure from multiple defenders and make the right decision under stress? That is like head on a swivel. Where's the next defender coming from? Where can I attack? Where's the space? Escaping a trap go hand in hand. Do you have the composure and vision to find an open teammate or create space for yourself? And then last, getting past the defender. Are you explosive enough and can you change your pace effectively to attack space and create an advantage? And then can you see the next line of defense to make the most effective decision? So these situations all require different levels of skill and decision making. That's why ball handling isn't just about dribbling, it's about reading the game and reacting in the right way and in a way that's appropriate and will give you the outcome you want. So a quick story before we get into how we can work on ball handling. And maybe you can relate to something like this. A parent came up to me, her daughter is in middle school, and her experience was playing rec basketball. And she made a comment that stuck with me, and I don't even think she realized what she said. She said that the girls on the team practice dribbling through cones during practice, and they look good, and they're picking it up. And then when they get into the game, they get so frazzled by the defense, they can barely even dribble. To me, there was no translation to the game because the practice didn't mimic the game environment and the difficulties they would see in the game. All right, so now to the how. In my opinion, you cannot become a great ball handler doing dribbling drills with cones or performing predetermined moves. So what I mean by that is let's say everybody's in a line, Coach tells them, okay, we're going to do 5 reps in a different move each rep. This is the order: crossover, between the legs, behind the back, in and out, and then a spin. Ball handling, like every other skill in basketball, is first perception and then action. So the player observes something on the court and then they act based on that observation. So for example, you catch the ball, let's say you catch the ball in the left wing, a defender closes out on you and you see space in the middle. That's to your right. That's the perception part. So you rip and attack to the middle, action part. Or you cross over to your left hand and notice your defender shifts their weight to your left. That's the perception. Because of that, you see that, you put the ball between your legs and attack to the right. That's the action part. Your actions are reacting to what's going on in the game. It's not a predetermined move in isolation. So knowing that's how the game is played, our training should reflect just that. So here are three of my favorite ball handling activities, and you can I encourage you to adjust them and make them your own. The first is tag. Sounds very simple, could sound elementary, but hear me out. So this is one of my favorite warm-up games, and that's because everybody generally knows the rules, so it doesn't take a long time to explain, and it gets their bodies ready to move in different directions. Like I mentioned before, the coordination aspect of it. The coordination and moving in different directions. Fluid movements, forward, backward, side to side, diagonal, all directions. And no matter what the age of the athletes, tag is a great way to work on ball handling. It's quick, it's fast paced. You need to keep your head on a swivel and move quickly. Agility is in there too. And the way you can make it appropriate for the skill level you're working on with is the rules that you place on the game. For example, you can play with everybody having a ball or half the people with the ball and half people taggers or something. You can make the rules that they have to tag someone's shoulder or steal the ball completely. You can make a rule that you can only dribble with your non-dominant hand, or every time you switch hands, it has to be not a crossover. So it has to be like between the legs or behind the back. The options really are limitless, and that's where it goes into what are your players good at? Where do they need help? For me, with a lot of the younger kids, it's generally you can only dribble with your non-dominant hand because it can be so weak, especially at the very youth level. The next activity that I really like is called Stay Alive. So this is a great one for handling pressure. You can play 2-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, or 5-on-5, depending on how many athletes you have in the gym with you. And the boundary is whatever you want it to be. So the 3-point line, half court line, whatever makes sense for the number of players you have and their skill level. So let's say we're doing 3-on-3 and the boundary is the 3-point line. So everybody has to stay inside the 3-point line. The offense is trying to keep their dribble alive as long as possible, and the defense is trying to steal all of the balls as quickly as possible. So every offensive player has the ball, and the defense is trying to steal the balls. Again, 3-on-3. So 3 people with balls, 3 people without. Once your ball is stolen, you are out. So as you can imagine, with 3 people, once 1 or 2 balls are stolen, you'll have a double or a triple team on your hands. You're working on attacking maybe the weaker defender or splitting a trap and creating space that way. If you wanted to incorporate passing into this activity as well, you can make a rule that once you get your ball stolen, you can become an option on offense. So that way you're working on passing with pressure, in traps, and the vision of the ball handler. So again, with that one, there's so many ways that you can make this realistic based on what your athletes need to work on. The last example of an activity that I really like is called touchdown. And this is a great activity for getting past a defender. So one player starts, it's a one-on-one game. One player starts with the ball at the free throw line facing the baseline. The defender is standing in front of the offensive player, and the goal is for the offensive player to get as many quote-unquote touchdowns as possible in the time allotted. So I've done this anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute, maybe a little bit more, but if they're going hard, they will be gassed. A touchdown is when the offensive player passes through either the baseline or the free throw line. Obviously, if they're starting at the free throw line, that they can't just go in and out of the free throw line. They have to go to the opposite side. So the baseline to the free throw line to the baseline to the free throw line. The offense must stay within the boundaries of the paint, so the free throw line, the lane lines, and the baseline. If they step out, they have to start back at the line. Like if they were at the free throw line, going to the baseline, they got pushed out of bounds, or they stepped out of bounds, go back to the free throw line. Like the other two activities I mentioned, you can always mold this to make it make sense for your team and the skill level. For example, let's say you're working with athletes who are just learning how to dribble. A rule for the defense could be they have to play with their hands behind their back. That way they can't steal the ball with their hands, and the athletes are still getting the pressure of the defense as they play. And as they continue to get better with handling the ball, you can add the defense can have one hand out, or the defense, maybe they can have two out, but you just say you can't steal the ball. So they're still getting, and then you work your way up to live play. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, let's say your athletes are good ball handlers and they're easily getting past their defenders. You can put a dribble limit on them. Say they only have 3 dribbles to get past their defender and get a touchdown. Or a time limit. They only have 3 seconds to get past their defender and get a touchdown, or else it doesn't count. And that way it really puts pressure on their ability to get somewhere in less dribbles, so that's more efficiently, or in less time, which is also more efficiently. And with these 3 activities, I hope you can see, and I hope you can agree that they do mimic something that a ball handler would go through in the game. And it's just a much more efficient and fun way to work on ball handling, other than just lining up a bunch of cones and telling them they have to, weave through the cones or whatever. This is just a much more efficient and fun way for the athletes to get some pressure and also work on and figure out what moves that they need to do to get out of different situations. All right, so final thoughts. If you are a coach and you have ever been frustrated with how ball handling isn't translating to the games, or you catch yourself saying something along the lines of, why didn't you use blah, blah, blah move in that situation? We spent, however long in practice on that the other day. I would encourage you to evaluate if your practices are representative of what the game requires, the perception, and then the action. Adjust and manipulate the situations your athletes struggle with in the games that will allow for maximal in-game transfer. All right, so 3 huge takeaways from this episode. Ball handling is more than dribbling. It's about control, decision-making, and getting from point A to point B as efficiently as possible. Understand where you are strong and where you can improve with your ball handling skills. Recognize in what situations you struggle with. This is where watching game film can really be helpful. Maybe you always turn the ball over when you get trapped, or you struggle to pass to get past your defender when you're driving to your left side. Once you can understand your game, you can improve your game. And train with intention and make it as game-like as possible. So focus on specific scenarios and apply your training to game situations. If you can commit to those 3 things, you will see improvement, not just in your ball handling, but in your overall game. So applying that to your whole game. So remember, being a great ball handler doesn't mean you need flashy moves. It means you're reliable, composed, and ready, and always ready to make the right play. Thank you all for tuning in today. If you found this episode helpful, share it with a teammate or coach. And if you're ready to take your game to the next level, have any questions for me, reach out to me via email for some training or resources, and have a great holiday season. I will see you all in 2025. Thank you so much for listening. If you aren't already, I would highly recommend subscribing to the podcast so you can get updated once new episodes are dropped. If you're a fan of the show, go ahead and leave a review. It really helps spread the word to more athletes, parents, and coaches. Now, if you have any questions for myself or future guests, feedback, or you're curious on how we can work together to help you reach your basketball goals, let's have a conversation. Feel free to email me at l@hoopsthroughlife.com today to set that up. That's el@hoopsthroughgh life.com. Thank you, and I look forward to hearing from you soon.